Hi, I'm Philip, and in this video I will share my long time experience with the Einscan Rigil with you. So it's a bit of a review, experience sharing. I've been using it for roughly half a year now, so since January, and I thought it's now a good time to give you a bit more, or share a bit more of my experience. So first, let's talk about my general experience for what I use the Rigil. So mainly for me, it's like the jack of all trades. So it can do small stuff, it can do big stuff. It is working very well in standalone scanning and also very well in PC scanning if you need a bit more power. And the big thing for the Rigil is that it is a very convenient to use scanner. What do I mean with convenient to use? It is a well-round bag. So I have this carry case and I can just bring it to a job site and I know this will work for me. And there is very few situations where it won't work. And I even can directly process on the device if needed. So normally, of course, I'm doing the scanning at the customer side and then the processing on my workstation. But there have been a few occurrences where the customer or the interested person directly wanted to have like the final scanners, the STL file. And I can do this with the Rigil. So I can scan, I can process on the Rigil, and then I can use the USB mode, where basically you enable the USB mode and it behaves like the whole Rigil behaves like a USB stick. You just plug it into a PC and it appears like a USB thumb drive, and you can pull the final STL files from the Rigil to the PC, and no need to install any proprietary software on the PC. So for using the scanner, or how I use the scanner, so that's the reason I have this package here, because I want to show you how my packaging grew over time or adapted over time to show you what I have in this case. So first, let's start of course with the Rigil. You can see it's not like the normal view. What I have here are some custom designed covers for the lanes and for the display section. These are not necessary while in the case, but for what they are very necessary and very helpful if I just put the Rigil in my backpack. So that's sometimes the case if I go to a job site or just take it with me, for example, to a museum to scan art pieces. So it's a bit less intrusive than bringing the complete case. What goes along with these covers is custom protection. So you can see here the lens section. So from top there's quite a nice view. So I have like designed a custom TPU case for the emitter section and the display section. So this is just a bit of a bump guard to protect the Rigil further. It's printed from TPU. I will also link the design in the video. So I just released it as a step file, so you can reprint it if you wanted it to. I also created here like the guard for the bottom part of the Rigil, just to make it stand on the table a bit more securely. Let's try to go into that. Now we can zoom a bit in like this. Okay, so what I also have in here is I have marker cards. This is basically just a set of aluminium business cards I glued markers on. And these are very helpful. So for example, I want to scan this case, I can just place them around the case and I don't need to stick any markers on the table itself. So these are my to-go solution for scanning on the go. So now let's put them away again. I also have a box or a bag of marker geometries in here. They fit quite nicely here in the bottom. These are used to allow shallower scanning because with the markers guards, the scanner can only see the markers to some degree of angle, and the marker geometry is allowed to extend this degree a bit. I still use the original power supply because this is a proper power supply. This is like a 65 watt USB-C PD charger, so no need to change it out. I even use it on the go for like charging my phone if I have no other charger with me. One further addition I have in here is a marker scraper. So this is just a scraper with a plastic plate. And this allows to like very carefully remove markers. This has two advantages. So the first one is the surface where the marker sticks isn't scratched. And second one, the markers itself are also not scratched. So this conserves markers a bit longer. Of course, the rest is quite standard in here. So I still use the original charger for the batteries, or for the 21700 batteries. So the Rigil uses two of them that are placed in the grip. But lately, most of the time, so the battery life is quite good. So you get a few hours of scanning out of it. So for like normal scanning or normal scan days, I just plug in the Rigil over USB-C for charging, and then after a few hours it's full, and I don't need to like fumble around with the batteries. That's even easier for me most of the time. But now let's put away all of the extra stuff and let's talk a bit more about the Rigil. So maybe one thing before putting away is here on the top, I also have blue tack. This is used to fix any parts that are flopping around while scanning. And I have multiple markers. So I have 3mm markers and 12mm markers for larger scans. So if I use, for example, infrared mode scans in large mode, then I can use the big markers. About the big markers maybe, so I just mentioned infrared mode and large, infrared scans in large mode. I actually, when I use these markers, I often prefer to not use marker tracking, but to use texture tracking, because in texture tracking, the markers are still recognized because the contrast is quite sharp, quite harsh. But what's the advantage? It still uses automatic exposure. So if you enable marker mode or marker tracking in IR mode, you only have manual exposure. And this can be a bit annoying. So just using texture tracking also works. And here on the top, there's also the calibration braid. Maybe talking about calibration, it is quite intuitive. So the Rigil tells you everything you need to do. And there even have been a few updates that make it a bit faster in the calibration, a bit more clear what to do. And it prompts you when it wants to be recalibrated. So basically, after 1 week, you get a warning. And after 2 weeks, you get like a big red bar in the calibration state that it needs to be recalibrated now. So it's quite clear. And it shows when it needs to be recalibrated. Now maybe about where I scan with the Rigil in recent times. So basically, now let's turn it on. I won't be doing like a guide on how to use the Rigil now. I hope it's clear. So I already did a guide. I already did like an initial unboxing tutorial. I won't repeat this section. But just to show you a bit on the Rigil. So I used it basically in every environment. So I used it in dark places, completely dark places. I used it in very cold winter times outdoors. I used it now in the summer under very harsh, bright sunlight. So it's really suitable for nearly all environments. So what's nice, you don't even need to like change any lenses or such, or add shades. So for example, the FreeScan Nova has shades on the tracker, so for infrared tracking. That's not needed for Rigil in infrared mode, and it just works. So this is one of the bigger things I like about it. So that's a bit of like the general, my general experience with the Rigil. It's just so convenient to use. So it's like the convenient scanner. You bring it, you scan, you add it on the scanner or in the software, and it works. And you don't need to think about any like additional preparation of the scan piece or of the environment. So that's very nice. Now let's talking about a major point for the Rigil, updates, or what updates it received in recent times. What you now can do, we can like switch to laser mode and enable, now let's enable the feature alignment. And what you will see is 50 laser lines and not 38 laser lines or 34 laser lines it initially had when being sold or when being announced. So this is one big point for Rigil. So over the last half year, it received an immense amount of updates. So maybe to list them up a bit from the major ones I remember. So the laser line improvement. So it turns out it had from beginning 50 laser lines for the crossline laser mode, but they only used, I think it was 34 or 38. And when they improved the processing algorithms enough to allow 50 laser lines, they didn't release a new Rigil. That's a big point to mention. It isn't a new Rigil version, it's just a software update for existing customers. So this is very nice. Then maybe talking a bit about tracking. So you can see here now I'm scanning in laser mode, but there aren't enough features now for laser scanning, but it doesn't need markers. So initially when the Rigil launched, it could do markerless laser scanning only in the PC connected scanning mode with a wire. And then with the next update, it could do it wireless or Wi-Fi. And then with the biggest update, I would say, and that was, I think it was teased around Formnext, around November last year, it could do markerless laser scanning standalone on the Rigil. So this is still like the biggest point for the Rigil. So other devices, I'm thinking about the Sermon P1 here. So this is like currently the most prominent competition. It received markerless laser scanning with the recent update, but currently only in wired laser mode, or wired PC connected mode. So that's a big point for the Rigil, and currently still the standalone argument for the Rigil, I would say, if you need it. Then with the latest software update, I think it was 1 week ago or 2 weeks ago, it received hybrid tracking in the laser line mode. So generally speaking about tracking on the Rigil, so if we maybe let's switch to the infrared mode, then I can show you all the tracking options available, and it's quite a lot. So let's let it switch, and then when we go into the settings like this, we can see the tracking options. So basically we can combine all of the scanning modes. So currently hybrid tracking between feature and texture is enabled. Then now I can disable texture and enable marker tracking. I can also, like this, only marker tracking. So it's quite a lot of options. And this is still like the standalone criterion for the Rigil, or the Rigil and Rigil Lite. And now the cool thing is, in PC scanning mode, so both in wired and wireless PC scanning mode, basically the same applies to laser scanning. So now I can laser scan with feature tracking and marker tracking in hybrid mode. So this is quite nice. Another point that got vastly improved was the scanning speed, or is the scanning speed. So with the initial launch, I think it did 70 FPS, I think it was. So 70 FPS in the PC connected mode, and roughly 60 in the, or 50 to 60 in the standalone mode. Then the Einstar Rockit was released, and it could do 90 FPS in the, I think it was 90 FPS in the PC mode. And it was like, oh, okay, why is the Rigil worse, basically? Then a big update came, and suddenly the Rigil could do up to 120 FPS, somewhere between 110 and 120 FPS. So they just improve it with software update. That's like putting through all these different topics. They just improve it with software updates and do it quite, in a constant fashion. And one additional update that also came, I think it was yesterday, I guess, or two days ago with a big update, was the tracking performance. So they released a big tracking update. I already tried it out today for a few vehicle scans. So I think it's called AI tracking, real-time optimization of data, and it's true. So it changed quite a lot, and it got even more reliable. So what you basically see while scanning is that if you lose tracking a bit on a car scan, or like a harder scan area around the windshield, often you see like it drifts, or it starts to overlap. And a few seconds later, it automatically corrects itself. So it pulls the whole scan together again. And this came with the recent update. So I would say this is a very big topic for the Rigil. And after talking a bit of my experiences with it, or one experience maybe about updates that I don't want to skip. Initially at launch time, so when I got the Rigil, it already was half a year post-launch, so it was released last summer, well, last autumn. There were a few bugs, a few annoying bugs, but they all got fixed by now. So even at the point when I received it, they all got fixed. So this isn't a topic anymore I would be concerned about when thinking to get a Rigil. And now after talking about Rigil, I want to show you, or in the main part of the video, I want to show you my scans. Simply the scans I did and the results I got with the Rigil across all the different lines of big scans, large scans, small scans, art scans. So now let's switch to the PC and let's have a look at the results and what settings I used and some final verdicts. After we now talked about the Rigil and my experiences with it over roughly last half year, a bit more in general, I thought it may be best to just show you my scan results and scan projects, because in the end this is like the relevant part for a 3D scanner, and I use it quite a lot across like all big categories, I would say. So I have very big parts, I have very small parts, I have art pieces, I have mechanical parts like molding and structural parts, and I of course also have vehicles, so cars, motorcycles, vehicle interiors. So let's start with the category of very big parts or art pieces. So this one is I think roughly 5 meter across statue made of brass, I think it is. And as you can see here, I have the texture and I have the mesh, and it is very nice. So this was scanned in infrared mode with texture tracking and the Rigil in standalone mode in outdoor environments. So it was bright daylight. You might see the brass is quite quite bright on the top side, but the results are simply outstanding, and the Rigil managed to do this in standalone mode. So this is very important to emphasize, that it worked on like the internal processor. Of course, the processing was done on my PC, so this will apply to basically all the scans I show you, that I do the processing on the PC, because I could do it on Rigil, of course, but why should I? I have a powerful workstation. There are some like edge cases if I'm like the customer and he directly wants a mesh and I don't want to bring a workstation for a small part, then local processing and using the USB export feature is quite convenient. But otherwise I do it on my PC. But I hope you can see, so this is quite an impressive result. You see the original part, and the size is, so the distance from top to back is roughly 4.4 meters. So the next big scan I want to show you is of seating garniture or couch area. This is also infrared mode, standalone scanning with hybrid tracking. So texture tracking and geometry tracking, and you can see the seating area, it is captured quite nicely, even here on the backside of the globe and the light. And especially the texture quality is excellent. So this was captured like it was total night outside with very dimly lit room, and no additional fill light of the Rigil, because I didn't want to like falsify the lighting behavior. So you can see here in the backside it's a bit lighter, and there it's quite dark. So this is also quite an impressive result. And also here, see, looking at the carpet, you see that it even captured the texture of the gardens and the globe. The next big scan I want to show you, the last very big scan I want to show you, is of a tree log. So this tree log is roughly 7 meters long, and the Rigil managed to capture it. It took a while, so I had some had to rewind it at some points due to tracking loss, especially around the like debugged areas. On the other side, there's a big of debugged area that lost tracking, but I could rewind and then continue the scan. And if you have a look, so it's quite straight, I catch it quite straight, and the texture quality is very good for the bug. And this was, I think it was the first weekend of using Rigil. So you can see the original mark outside. It was still winter. It was this first weekend I used it and tried it out on the outside because I wanted to get a feel for its performance. And to be honest, I was blown away. So this was like a level of scanning freedom I didn't experience before. And having a look here, you can see that the texture really came out very nicely. Also here in the cutting phase, you still see like the original rings or H-rings and even the cutting marks of the chainsaw. So here's a bit of closer look at this cut section or cut area of the tree. So going from very big parts to very small ones. This is actually a comparison to the Einstar Rockit. So what did I scan here? I scanned a 50 Eurocent coin. You even see it here on the left. In laser mode with the highest possible resolution, so 0.05 millimeters. And I did the same on the Rockit. And as you can see, the Rigil, this was done in parallel laser lines, really captured the fine detail quite nicely, especially in comparison to the Rockit. There you can see that the Rockit simply didn't capture as much detail. Here with the other rendering engine, you see it a bit more clearly. So the scan setup basically was just placing the coin on a bed of markers and marker geometries. And as you can see here, I may have to replace the markers in a short time because they get a bit scratched up now. No scanway spray was used, so even like reflective material can be captured quite nicely. Same applies to the backside. Here you can see the 2022 dating or stamping, but on the Rockit it cannot be seen. So now going from very small scans to art pieces, this is also quite impressive or quite performant. So here, the first one is traditional wax casting. This was scanned in laser mode with marker tracking. The piece itself, you can see the scan setup, it's placed on a bed of markers, marker geometries again. And this is like some traditional wax casting, very common in Bavaria. And I digitized a whole collection of these. And the hard thing is that first there is quite a harsh contrast sometimes with these darker recessed areas, and there are sometimes even undercuts, and I just wanted to capture the structure of these very well. And of course, the alignment between top and bottom is a big point. So I didn't want to create 3 separate scans, so only the top and bottom. So it was important to also capture the sides very well. So basically you see here, so these sides had to be captured all around for both sides to later allow proper alignment. And I scanned in PC connected mode, so wireless from Rigil to PC. This is simply due to the fact that on the Rigil itself, with this resolution, I think it was set to 0.1 millimeters scanning resolution, you get roughly, I think, 40 to 50 FPS in standalone mode. Connected to a powerful PC, it's more like 110 FPS, and this is simply much faster. So as I previously said, I prefer to use the Rigil in like the PC connected mode when I use our neither scan resolution below 0.2 millimeters, because it's just this much faster and still works like very convenient. So it's just convenient using it. Looking at the results, you can see that the capture was, or the detail was captured very nicely, even like the small scratches already in the wax. Even here on the backside, if you have a look at the hanging or the string hanging it and the area around it, it's captured very nicely. Same applies for the second example for this topic. It's also a wax casting, a bit more of a statue this time. And having a look at the original, here you can see original, the scan setup is very similar. And this one imitates a bit of a used up wood look. Scan setup again was 0.1 millimeters of resolution. And the final scan came out superb. So this was a bit of overwhelming initially, or the detail captured. Even when having a closer look at like the face section and the front section, it really, really is a nice scan. The last major topic I want to cover are vehicles, so cars, motorcycles, mechanical parts come first, so molding. So for the first example, I have, I scanned a 3D printed mold. So for context, this mold is for carbon pieces, for carbon negative mold to laminate carbon into. And I printed it from PETG, and it may, or there is the chance for it to warp. I also have the other one opened. So there's the chance for it to warp. So I wanted to create a quality assurance or quality control scan of the print to compare to the CAD model. Scan setup, again, was very easy. Just a few of my marker cards and marker geometries on the table, and a few markers here on the mold face. Simply because if I wanted to scan here these extreme parts to the top, it would have been possible with a bit of trying around, but the surface texture would have gotten much worse. The Rigil was again used in standalone mode, and having a look at the scan results, here you can really see first that my printer seems to have a bit of Z-axis wobble as a first part. And also here on the top surface, you can see a few inconsistencies. I may have to tune down extrusion a bit. But it captured all the relevant parts. You even see here, so there was a filament run out and it changed the spools. So one layer was missing a very tiny bit, and it also captured this one. And here you can see like the comparison to the CAD model, but this is not a real part. Next thing now is, this is just a scan of a Vespa steering rack, race Vespa steering rack. I include this scan here in the comparison in the video because this highlights for me a bit the convenience of a scanner. So I by chance visited a friend of a friend, basically, that builds these race Vespas, and he was having trouble with the lighting mount for the steering rack. So this is an upcoming project I will share it later in a few weeks, I think, when all the parts are finished. But I had the Rigil in my backpack because I scanned at a friend also some parts, and I could like whip out the Rigil, start it, and scan the steering rack with like some magnetic markers and a few marker dots attached to it. This like wouldn't have been possible with a regular wired scanner or PC dependent scanner. So I got a few comments about one of the posts where I highlighted or emphasized how much I like standalone scanners in general, and where the person was asking like, why should I care? Basically, I have a powerful PC. So yeah, I also have a powerful PC, or quite a powerful workstation actually, but I don't want to carry it with me. I don't even want to carry a notebook with me most of the times. So this is very convenient. Now to the last topic, the vehicle scans. Sorry, here we go. So what I did quite a few of are vehicle interiors. So for example, here is of a Opel Astra, or I think it's called Vauxhall Astra in the US. The trunk basically for like internal refitment, where a client does like custom build outs for vehicle trunks for multiple systems. And you can see this is also scanned in infrared mode, in feature tracking infrared mode. So no preparation was needed at all. And this fascinated the client quite a lot. So we initially met at a trade fair, and he tried scanning, I think it was like, what did he say, 5 years ago or 10 years ago, where they did like the results back then, but the whole process was quite prohibitive. So scanner were quite expensive, so not 5,000 or 6,000 euros like a Rigil, more like 50 to 100,000 euros. You had like multiple hours of preparation time. The software workflow was quite bad, and it simply was too much to even start using it. And now with the Rigil, it's like opening the trunk, getting out like the additional stuff that's in there, if there's stuff in there, and starting to scan. One trunk is roughly 5 minutes. The post-processing, maybe 5 to 10 minutes again, and then I have final mesh. And the software for the Rigil is like even free. And it already can be used for aligning the scan to the coordinate system. What's also quite nice for this one, they did like a live demo, and I processed it on the Rigil completely. And he immediately wanted to have the scan data, and I just used the USB mode, so I could plug the Rigil in his PC, and it acted like a USB thumb drive, where he like could pull the final STL file from. So this was the first trunk. Here is a second trunk. So this is basically the similar approach, but you can see it doesn't have any issues with tracking such trunk spaces in feature tracking mode. Maybe for the other one, I haven't shown the other pictures, but you can see it captured all the details, even like the acoustic absorbing material in there. So this is really very convenient scanning tool. But I closed the hatch and placed myself in the trunk, so I can capture the position of the hatch closed. Now to the final topic, it's motorcycles. And this is quite a challenging scan subject, I will say. Not most challenging for tracking, but there's simply a lot going on. And what I did here, this was more of, so for this motorcycle, it was mainly a testing subject for myself, where I tried out the Rigil with different modes. On the left, you see infrared scanning mode with 1.5 millimeters of resolution. And on the lower right, you see markerless laser scanning mode. Both times scanned in standalone mode. So this video was created, so I need to take a sip of water. This the markerless laser scan was created when the markerless laser scanning finally was released for the Rigil and standalone mode. So I immediately redid the original scan, and both were captured quite nicely. Mainly both scans were 2 scans, so from the one side and then from the other side, and merged in post-processing. And as you can see, of course, that the markerless laser scan is much smoother and even captures more detail. So looking a bit closer here at like the different knobs, they are also present in the infrared scan, but the markerless laser scan is just much clearer. Or here around the brake discs, here you can see the BMW sign or signage. This is even more present here on the other more close-up looks. So you can stop the video if you want to compare them a bit more in detail. But generally speaking, if possible, markerless laser scanning will provide you with a more detailed scan experience. What I must mention at this point, so I come from my Einstar Rockit. So before I had the Rigil, I had the Einstar Rockit. And for the Rockit, it's not standalone, of course, but it has a bit closer standoff distance between the cameras. So the Rigil, so if you have a look, I'll Google it. Einstar Rigil, first Einstar Rockit. On the Rockit, the cameras are a fixed distance. So even for the large infrared mode, the cameras are still closer together, and it uses like the high resolution cameras also used in laser mode. On the Rigil, it has an additional set of cameras, wide angle cameras for the large infrared mode. So on the Rigil, what I normally would have scanned in the small infrared mode on the Rockit, I now scan in the markerless laser mode on the Rigil. This is roughly how it translates for myself. So the infrared mode on the Rigil is really meant for bigger parts, and anything I would say sub 1 meter, sub 1.5 meters can and should be scanned in markerless laser mode or marker laser mode. So this was the first motorcycle. As I said, you can pause if you are interested. Now, a bit more about the second one. I have to search for it. So this was just a Yamaha scan, or Yamaha motorcycle we will rebuild, and also scanned in markerless infrared mode, just a very quick scan from, so this was one complete scan, so I didn't merge both sides in post, but what I did, I segmented it a bit. So here you can see this is like the full motorcycle with the original tank and saddle, and here is the saddle and tank removed, and these are the two ones isolated. So this is also an upcoming project sometime where this will be converted to a bit different style of motorcycle. But this was also like, I had the Rigil, this was the same day I scanned the Vespa. I had the Rigil on my back, and I just, this was like, I knew this project would be coming up at some point. So I just scanned the motorcycle. One additional thing I have like open here, maybe talking about the accuracy of the Rigil. So this is an accuracy chart I created by using my, I would say, standard measuring approach using a calibrated micrometer. The Rigil itself is here in this thick dark blue, and the delta mean, also of the nominal to nominal of 424.984 millimeters is only 0.01 millimeters. So the accuracy and the precision, so the bit lighter blue is the nominal. So the accuracy and precision of the Rigil are really nice. And even with like temperature variation, I haven't noticed it significantly swapping around. So as a few final remarks for the Rigil, maybe let's open a nice background for this one to show again what impressed me. I must say this is like the scan that impressed me most. So as a final verdict for Rigil, I would say it's very much well worth the price. If the roughly $6,000 for the Rigil, or 6,000 euros for the Rigil, including that, are too expensive for you, there is also the Rigil Lite now. This is a bit cheaper version of the Rigil, and yeah, the specs are superior, but the funny thing is the Rigil Lite is roughly the Rigil I received when I got it in January. So since then, the original Rigil was improved, like the laser line count increased. We have like the improved tracking, the improved markerless scanning, and these are all so the new Rigil Lite is the original Rigil, basically. There was even in some point when I was looking at Rigil manual, mention of the Rigil Pro, so the normal Rigil at Rigil Pro, but it seems like they kept the original Rigil and renamed the softer one, the Rigil Lite. What's also one big point when talking about these updates, this really created trust in Shining 3D or Einscan that they try to improve the product whilst in life cycle. So they sell you the hardware, they really try to make the most of it with software updates. So every month or every 2 months, there comes a software update that really improves the scanner and like further leverages the hardware. So this is like hard-earned trust, I would say. And maybe the one downside of the Rigil that I'm not sure I already mentioned, but if we look at a bit closer at the front of it, what it doesn't have is a single laser line mode. So here on the website, we see, okay, we have the cross lines. Here you can see we have the cross lines and we have the 7 blue lines. But what we sadly are missing is the single laser line. Maybe when I'm quite sure if there will be a refresh at some point of the Rigil, it will have a single laser line, simply because the competition also has it, and it's quite a useful feature. In my everyday projects, I haven't noticed it missing too much. Sometimes, of course, deeper hole scanning would be beneficial, but even with the 7 laser lines, you come quite deep into holes. So it's not too much of a problem, but it's like the one downside I can think of with the Rigil. Some people say the price is maybe a bit steep. I don't think so. So yeah, for a hobby device, if you're like a hobby user, having a 500 euro free printer, 6,000 euros for the scanner will be quite expensive. So as a final remark, I'm very excited to see what comes next from Einscan or Einstar or Shining 3D in the like personal lineup, and hope you got a bit of an impression what the Rigil will do, and it may help you decide what scanner is right for you. So have a nice day and be back when I release new interesting topics.